priest crossed over on the other side because he was too afraid of getting dirty to the point that his identity would be corrupted. Secondly, said a Levite came by. The Levite was the guy, kind of like me. He came to church. He did the work. He was the helper of the church. He helped the ministry of the church. And he was part of the candle lighters. And they were part of the people that ministered it. And they did some of the worship. We've got all kinds of Levites in the house that help us put all this service together. And the Levites were also known as those who kept their hands clean because they had made a vow never to touch anything unclean, never to touch anything that was dirty. It said when he saw the man, he crossed over on the other side. Why? Because he did not want to lose his identity. But a Samaritan man from the town of Samaria, which just so happened to be a place that the Levites and the priests would go all the way around the outskirts of the city just because they said, we're not even going to get the dust from Samaria on our feet because it would make us unholy, because the Samaritan people were people that were considered unjust and unrighteous. They were a Gentile nation. In other words, they were not born with a birthright to really be in the family of God. They were ones that had been engrafted, but they were the kind of second-class citizens. They were the ones that had all the prostitution and everything running around in town. They were the town that nobody wanted to go to. As a matter of fact, if you look in Luke chapter 9, Jesus had just went to Samaria and was trying to preach to them, and they even rejected Jesus. But the thing I love about Jesus is he doesn't care if you don't like him or not. He's still going to talk about you. And because God is love, he's not going to expose all your weakness to show how weak you are, but he will let people know what your strength is. So he's talking about a town that even rejected him, and he said a Samaritan came by, and when he saw the man, he was moved with compassion to the point that he picked him up, and he took oil and cleaned his wounds, or oil and anointed his wounds. Then he took wine and cleaned his wounds, put him on his own donkey, saddled him all the way to town, found him a place at the inn, and paid him 2 denarii, which is 2 days' wages, for the innkeeper to keep him healthy and make sure he was going to be all right. And then he said, I'll be back in some time, and if this man is better, let him go. I'll pay his debt. Said all that to say this: salt and light. 2 more words: identity and relevance. Most of my life, not saying you've heard this, to be the salt of the earth meant I had to have such a strong identity that I was marked as a Christian, that you could see me coming. In Sunday school, they told us we should carry our Bibles like we were proud going down the school hall. I'll be honest with you, I kept mine in my backpack. They told us that we had to be so different of the world because we're the salt of the earth. We can't be like the sinners, and you can't have sinner friends. But then it would be revival time once a year, and they want us to bring all of our sinner friends. I didn't have any. I had to go try to make friends with people that were wrong so they could come in and get saved and make it right. I thought something was wrong with the system then, and I realized there's something wrong with it now. Is that people that have their identity on their sleeve are usually so irrelevant to the point that nobody pays them any attention. I'm talking about being the salt of the earth because, listen, if somebody won't let you sprinkle yourself on their life, doesn't matter how good the salt is you're serving. Jesus amazes me because everything he did, he was not promoting himself, but he was promoting his Father. He wasn't as concerned with you knowing who he was as he was as concerned with knowing who his Father is. Yes. Through this story of the Good Samaritan, it said that because this man was moved with compassion, this is not even a good man. It's not even a Christian man. But he was moved with compassion to the point that he went where he was at and pulled him out. And the church people, because of where he was at, couldn't see he had wounds that needed taken care of, and they were more concerned about their identity not being corrupted to the point that they would rather allow a man to die in the state he was. And Jesus is using an example of a messed up man himself that comes and because of compassion, didn't care who he was or what people would say about him, got where he got and helped him get out. And it said he poured oil, which is a healing agent, and then he poured wine, which is a cleaning cleaning agent, which the church need to understand that just right off the bat anyway. You can't try to clean somebody up before they get healed, or it causes so much pain you'll lose them. You need to have enough wisdom to understand that before you try to clean them up, you've got to get them healed emotionally, because whatever does not get healed in you will ultimately kill you. And at least this man, who wasn't even a Christian and was messed up himself, helped this man because of compassion. He put him on his own donkey and he said, listen, I've got enough strength and I want you to ride on my back. I'm going to take you to safety. Where are you, church? Which tells me that it's not just enough to get them saved, but you should have enough strength in yourself to carry them where they need to go until they get where they need to go, and then let them off through the process. That it's not all about us and just building numbers for us, but we should be able to take and carry somebody, whether it's financially, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is, and drag them to the place that they need to find safety, and then make sure they get taken care of. Why? Because we're the salt of the earth. Jesus said, which person is neighbor? In other words, which person would you rather live beside to help take care of you, lawyer? Those that obeyed the law, or those, even though they may not have had it together, understood what it meant to be salt and light? Silenced the lawyer. He said, of course, I'd rather be the Samaritan. This coming from a man wouldn't even go to Samaria because he thought they were too dirty of a people. What am I trying to tell us today? Is that there's a struggle going on between identity and relevance. Something I've noticed in the church world is that the churches that are the most relevant have dropped denominational names off their churches. Why is that important? Because it's hard to label something that's relevant. Because time changes so fast that what is in today will be out tomorrow. So if I label you as this today, it may be in today, but if you have that label, you won't fit into tomorrow. I know you don't believe me because you're looking at me like the cow looks at the new gate. You know what I'm saying? He just can't figure out what's going on, all that good stuff. So let me try to help you just a little bit more today. We doing okay on time? Everybody all right? Here we are in this place. Identity and relevance. John chapter 9, verse 24 says it like this. So the second time they summoned the man who had been born blind. Jesus had just opened up a blinded man's eyes. And they said to him, now give God the glory and praise. And they said this because this fellow we know is only a sinner, a wicked person. They were talking about Jesus. They were saying, blind man, listen, we're glad you got healed, but Jesus healed you, and we know he's a sinner. Isn't that amazing that they call Jesus a sinner? And watch what it says in 25. Then he answered, I don't know whether he's a sinner, wicked or not, but one thing I do know, that I was blind and now I see. He was saying, I don't even know if Jesus is a good man. All I know is that he met me at the point of my deepest need and brought permanent change. He brought light into my dark world. He was a salt into my world. He added, and all I know is I'm thirsting for whatever he has. I don't even know if he's a good man. Messes up everything, doesn't it? All my life I've heard we got to be called out and separated and segregated. But how can we do that if we're supposed to be salt and be added to something? In other words, it's not about S.H.O.C. and Souls Harbor Outreach Center or any other church name. I don't care if they even think we're a good church. As long as I can take somebody whose life needs touched and bring permanent change forever. Yes. That's my concern. I don't care if they don't like me because I love them anyway. I'm going to love them if they don't like me. Yes. But I'm not going to sacrifice my identity so everybody thinks I'm so holy. Because the fact of the matter is, if you don't think I make mistakes, you've got this whole thing messed up anyway. Anybody going to leave the church after saying that? I can see how you look at me. I'm trying to prove a point of something, is that if you think in your life you've got to be so identifiable as a Christian and holy, you're probably going to be so irrelevant to the people that actually need you to speak into their life that you could spend all of your life and go into eternity and never make a difference in anybody. What's more important, who you are or who God is? That's right. Here's the choice, identity or relevance. The thing is, there's a pull between this, because if you go so far to relevance, you'll lose your identity. If you go too far to identity, you'll become religious and not righteous and lose your ability to be relevant. So there's a pulling, there's a tugging going on. And that's the great thing about it, is that it keeps things tight and it keeps things in line. Yes. I'm not trying to say that we need to be so relevant that we just abandon all and cast off all restraints and just live crazy lives so we can touch them. I'm not saying that. But I am trying to say